course, finally, spring is on our doorstep. Not the beginning of September, of course, but the spring equinox, which this year falls on the 23rd of September. That's Monday. And then we can officially say spring has sprung, and from then, of course, the days gradually begin to get longer. And astrologically, we pay close attention to the beginning of the seasons. The seasons mark the 4 stages of the sun's journey through the year. Those are essentially the markers of time for us. So what happens around the time of the change of the seasons can have implications for some time ahead, say for about the next 6 months. So we need to look closely at what's going on right now to get a sense of how it's going to be over the next little while. The last month has been quite an intense time here in South Africa, and indeed in many places around the world, where the levels of violence and seemingly powerful forces that no one's in any control of have really escalated. Astrologically, it's because the planets Saturn and Pluto are ganging up, as they do nearly every 40 years or so, and it's one of those times when we really have to try as best as possible to control and compose our reactions. But that is important in the political sense, in the global sense, where you're not really seeing very much of that control happen. Here in South Africa, both the xenophobic violence and its consequences and the various strikes and demonstrations that have been happening over the last month and more are related to that Saturn-Pluto configuration. And over the next few months, it looks like we're not done with strikes and demonstrations yet. Matters of xenophobia and xenophobic violence will calm down, and that is really probably as a result of the efforts of the president. It does show that there is a great deal of peacemaking. Ramaphosa's journey to try and calm his African counterparts seems to largely succeed, as we've even seen in Zimbabwe. So it does look like peaceful relations with other African countries does ensue out of this. And it does actually seem like we can even get some new friends out of the diplomatic efforts that are forced because of what's been going on. So in that particular cloud, there is a little bit of a silver lining. But when it comes to strikes and demonstrations, there is definitely much more to expect, and perhaps some of that is necessary, as we've seen over the last little while, with Enough is Enough and various other efforts to draw attention to issues of gender-based violence, and with some success of that so far. But obviously there's more to be done, and that does show like more will be being done in the shape of the same things. Both that and other kinds of strikes and demonstrations, also just in the usual sense of strikes in labor and great dissatisfaction with the government, issues perhaps with unions. There's a lot of unrest in the labor sphere, and that is going to occupy a lot of the attention of the government and a lot of the issues that are being spoken about with respect to strikes, demonstrations. Problems with services increase, and that's probably a lot of the cause of it, as well as, of course, the financial situation, which continues to not look very good for this next month and perhaps longer than that. It does look like we can still experience some further financial constraint, further weakening of the currency and of the economic situation before it gets better, which is probably at the earliest about February of next year. So that's going to be still a little bit of a journey. In fact, much of what's going on now extends itself to February of next year, and to some extent even as far as April of next year. So we have a bit of an intense ride still ahead of us, as I've said, luckily probably with less violence than we've seen before. But here at home the situation is still very much underway, and we can expect a lot of chaos and uncertainty to prevail on and off until that time as well. It's not looking so great for the opposition, especially in the case of the leader of the opposition, Muzi Maimane. It does look like There are some matters affecting him. It's hard to tell whether it's going to come out into the open just yet, but I suspect that it will. We don't have a birth time, and this is a little bit sensitive to that. But it does look like there are some matters that he's not really addressing, and that might lead to problems for him and things that for him are worth regretting. Official opposition basically looks very dissipated, not in any kind of focused force at the moment. Fortunately, for once, the president and the government look like they are taking more initiative, and that is leading to better results in establishing greater peace and harmony and balance in the land. It is the month of Libra that is beginning, and luckily it is those Libran types of things that have really been activated and are able to come into play for once and for all to kind of affect us all. So maybe we all need to hug a Libran, hang in there, and get on with what's happening for ourselves in our own month ahead. Aries, it looks like you have got some good results out of chilling and focusing more on your own things over the last month, which hopefully you did do. There is more time and space for that, but still other people finally have arrived on the scene, and there are all sorts of obligations, probably quite nice ones, that you're going to have to make sure you balance your time with. It's not a great time to get into any kind of professional obligations, too many new responsibilities, but some of them are going to be unavoidable and not in fact much of a problem. Good then to sign a new lease, but not to take on a promise of something that's already on a pile of great busy things that you've got to do, because it does look pretty busy for you. It will improve as the month goes on. It does look like you can spend some more time with your social life, because there are great benefits to be had from friends. If you've got bigger plans or bigger ideas, it's also those friends or other people around you who can help with that. Your own professional ideas take far precedence over any duties, responsibilities, or things being told to you that you have to do. So make sure you get some quality fun time for yourself. Deal with the responsibilities that you have to and that you can't avoid, but still take advantage of this time to advance your own interests. And don't forget that it's all about the friends too. Taurus, you need to decide what is your responsibility and what isn't your responsibility this time around. It does look like you're taking on way too much and getting yourself involved in things that aren't even yours to worry about. If you do have responsibilities to get something done this month, you're going to have to really think out of the box. You might have to call in help from other people, and it's not the usual places. In fact, in any goal, you really have to stretch yourself this time. The bigger problem is going to be getting your own ideas into action when you're relying on so many other people for this to work. So the challenge is better negotiations, better figuring out ways to get your own ideas out into the world. It's not such a good time then to be giving your energies and services to other people, because that's just going to frustrate your attempts to do what you need to do to make things happen at this time. It is an excellent month for your personal life. It looks like things are growing from strength to strength right now in all your relationships, and especially in your most important one-to-one relationship. The theme of the month for you will be friendship, even if it's your lover. The question is, where is our friendship? And you can really grow those close connections during this spring month ahead. Enjoy that. Gemini, you might find yourself in the unenviable role of being peacemaker this month. But it also makes it a good month for anywhere else that negotiations need to happen. Firstly, when it comes to being peacemaker, the important thing is not to allow yourself to get drawn into. It also looks like you kind of stuck in the middle. It might be a little bit beyond peacemaker and finding yourself torn in two directions, trying to keep everyone happy. Don't allow yourself to become the third wheel, the diplomat or the peacemaker in any situation, unless that's your job. If that is your job, it's an altogether different story. negotiations of any kind, anywhere where you really need to get cooperation of any kind, all of that's going to work really, really well this month. And there's no reason why it doesn't have to apply to your personal life if it's your personal life that we're talking about and not getting involved in sorting out other people's stuff. Because that's where it looks like you could be pulled in too many directions, trying to keep all the people happy all the time, which is something you find yourself doing way too often. So it's time to make sure that what's important for you is on the agenda first, and that's about bringing your own personal life into greater harmony, because you might have let things slide or put too much attention into friends and associates and people outside of you, and might be getting a little bit of feedback that more energy needs to happen back at home. Put it there, it's going to be just as rewarding. Cancerians, this month is all about digging deep for you. Firstly, you are going to have to dig quite deep into your pockets, unfortunately. Although, luckily, it looks like the resources will be available to you. It's not going to be too much of a problem. So even if you have to cough up, trust that it's all going to a good place, or that you will get the results that you need. Right now, especially if this is family members, but somehow other people or partners or family members need your strength and perhaps the resources that you have. But it's all good. It's going to work out in the longer run for you too. There might be other knuckling down that needs to happen, digging deep into your emotional self. It could be quite a challenging month. You might even find yourself feeling a little down or under the weather emotionally later in the month, but don't take that too seriously. It's really just about getting down to brass tacks, knuckling down and digging deep, because you're building a lot of your resources, and that includes your emotional resources. The one thing where you do need to lighten up is with worrying about something or explaining something correctly. If there are worries or concerns, it's probably arising out of some kind of miscommunication. So this is the opportunity to sort things out, to clarify, to go back and explain yourself, whatever the case may be. Things will work out well from that. Leos, you might find yourself choosing between your professional life and your personal life or your social life, but it looks like personal and social stuff is way more important at this time. You might even find yourself traveling for the sake of friends or those kind of relationships, and if not, why not plan something? This is the ideal month to actually be reaching out to people you haven't seen for a long time, or places that you haven't seen for a long time, and connecting with your people in some way. Also, new people, not just your people. There are all sorts of people around you at this time, and that also means opportunities. It's not 100% choice between personal and professional. It does look like there are some professional opportunities actually arising out of this increase in personal activity that's all around you at this time. There was some conflict last month that has fortunately faded. It's probably not quite done yet. You might find yourself having to sort something out that dates from a little bit earlier this year. Don't hang yourself up about old stuff. Just get it sorted, move on. You know, there's so many positive things about your relationships in this month ahead. You don't want to ruin it with the one that gets your blood pressure skyrocketing. Still, if you need to sort something out and stand up for yourself, it's still the best time to do that and get it done with once and for all. That's what this month is all about. Virgos, things look to be working themselves out really well for you. Over the last month, perhaps shortly after your birthday, things really fell into place, perhaps even before, but now you can really get rolling with that. Whatever these goals may be, whether they're personal ones, professional ones, whether it's some plan you've had up your sleeve for ages, it's really a great time to get things rolling. That's especially true if you have to depend on other people for some reason, because they seem very willing to help out. You can call in favors, you can call up friends, you can do things in a group. It's just about the more the merrier, because things are working for you. It's like it's one big party. That doesn't mean you're just having fun, because it does look like you're worrying about things that you probably don't need to be worrying about. It is true that there is one area of your life where you need to be taking charge more, or basically showing your strength, even if it's not about taking charge. There's one area where it's important not to be perceived as weak right now, or to at least allow your strength to be seen. But other than that, cooperation and fun and peace and harmony are possible both in personal relationships, professional relationships, any other relationships you might be having as well. If you haven't got evidence that you've got something to worry about, don't worry about it. Looks like someone else will take care of it anyway. Libra, you might have realized it's a month about people, and it seems to be a month where everyone is thinking about you. All the other signs of the zodiac this month are having a fairly social time, and the more that I look at the astrology of it all, it might be that the Librans in everyone's life are kind of at the center of it all, because Libra is having a really good month this month as well. It looks like things at every level are working well. One of the great challenges at a time like this is that everything is working so well that you end up not wanting to rock your own boat, and so you can miss opportunities or avoid making decisions or things like that, because instinctively you want things to stay just as they are. But this is really a time to show some initiative and show some example, because it's a little bit like people are looking at you. They're not expecting anything from you, but you are opening a path for many people around you as you move forward in a very positive way right now. Of course, those are really the people in your own life. It looks like with friends, with lovers, people in relationship, they really are benefiting from your forward flow as they kind of get taken along with you. This is a time to be enjoying that, but making the most of it by seeing it as an opportunity to follow some of your deeper held ideals. Go for it. Scorpio, the time for keeping things to yourself has come to an end, but that doesn't seem to be what you're going to do. You're still keeping things to yourself, and that could be causing some problems in your personal life, and quite frankly, unnecessary problems. It does look from the stars at the moment that this is a great time to be talking about things, to be addressing matters, perhaps matters that bug you, but even more important, things that you want to bring up as decisions to be made, things to do, ways to move forward, whether that's in your personal relationships or your professional life. It does look like your professional life can really make advances at this time. And if there are some difficult goals or things which require a lot of energy or something like that, this is time to get those things into action. Show what you haven't been showing. It's not only about getting secrets out, because not everyone's got secrets, but it's also about letting your real light shine. You often hide a lot of what you're capable of, and this is not one of those times, because you'll end up shooting yourself in the foot. So show what you're really capable of, and you yourself might be surprised at a few talents or abilities that have been lurking there all the time. Get yourself into action. Let's see it. Sagittarians, things continue to go really well for you, and events over the last month have moved you forward, and that continues to happen. This is time, though, to really put that to your own advantage. You can get too complacent and too reliant on luck. That's not to say your luck is bad, because your luck is actually looking quite strong at the moment, but it's not enough to rely on. So this is the time to really put some of those gains and advantages that you've had to good use. That means time to polish off some of the more important personal goals in your life, as well as those that you've been trying to do that really will bring some major changes to your long-term outlook. This is a good time to be setting plans that you want to last for years ahead. Your Jupiter is strong. Jupiter likes to work in 12-year periods, and Jupiter is saying right now is the time to lay the foundations for the next 12 years. There may be something you're not seeing clearly in your personal life, and you do need to attend to matters at home. You could have been allowing things to slip or not really paying attention and noticing that there are matters that need your attention. From the domestic space to the physical house itself, could be any one of those. So put all your energies to good use right now. It's really going to pay off. Capricorn, for the most part, you're in quite a secure space at the moment. You've got your practical matters under control, like money, what's going on in your domestic life, and probably even what's going on in your professional life. But for some reason, you might still be feeling as if you're carrying some kind of a burden, and at worst, it might even be a bit of melancholy, sadness, depression kinds of feelings. Anyway, with that very powerful Saturn going on at the moment, a little bit of light relief is always called for. And Saturn is well mitigated by doing things that children love, as well as doing things that are about family and close connections, and those things that balance out some of the difficulties of life. Good time for siblings, if you've got siblings, but you might find that in terms of some relationships, not really the family ones, you do need to confront things. You've been allowing things to sit in a particular way for a long time, and it's finally time to bring matters to a head, make some choices and decisions, kind of put your cards on the table, as it were, and allow the relationship to be cleaned up or cleaned out, whatever the case may be. Aquarius, a lot in your life has stabilized over these last few weeks, and you could stay that way, but you could also end up feeling a little bit stagnant if you do. You need to take advantage of this position of stability to confront a few people or perhaps a few situations that have arisen, most notably about your space, whether that's proper boundaries that need to happen, whether it's something as straightforward as you need to deal with matters from the neighbors, but you need to clarify and sort out your space. It also looks like you've been carrying some baggage. Perhaps the last few months where things have been working better for you have meant that you haven't really had the opportunity to deal with some old stuff. But this is the time to be getting rid of old baggage as well as old fears. There seem to be fears most likely about money or security or some kind of material matter at the moment, and that's also acting like some baggage that could be dealt with. And right now, the only way to get rid of it is by dealing with fear. It's not about going to try and find more money and fixing it. It's realizing that the greater danger is the fear. From a stable place, you can discover that fear is all about the unknown. And if you focus right now on what you have and where you stand, you have nothing to fear. Pisces has a very peaceful month ahead, and there's nothing you like better than that, especially during the month of spring, when that's really a great time to be enjoying your environment and enjoying your space. That's your theme for this month, Pisces. Focus on your space. It could be as simple as get out into your garden or somebody's garden or some beautiful space, because there's really great benefits from the environment and being in harmonious spaces for you at the moment. It could also mean that you need to create a bit of that. Sometimes Pisces live in very messy or disorganized kind of spaces, and a little bit of good old-fashioned spring cleaning is exactly what you need, because your chart's saying there's a lot of positive stuff going on for you, positive energy, should I say, and that could really be taken advantage of and brought into play in your most mundane domestic space to establish a foundation that could last for many months ahead. Right at the beginning of today's show, I said the things that we do at spring often last for about 6 months, and you can establish a lot of peace, harmony, and the joys of spring and have that really last a good long time for you. In the same way there's a sense of a good time for a fresh start in a domestic space, there's also a good time for a fresh start in your own personal you space. So anything that wants to be new habits or kind of New Year's resolutions, let's call them spring resolutions, kick them into gear, they could really last. I had such fun last week visiting and participating in the Lokinwi Body, Mind and Spirit Festival that was held in Johannesburg. And that's probably going to be an exciting event you're going to want to attend the next time it rolls around. So I managed to speak to some interesting people and look out for a show all about that in the weeks ahead, as well as a great interview with Jacques de Villiers, who I caught up with at the show. You're not going to want to miss that next week. So have a great spring, have a great next 6 months. Don't forget to hug a Libran, and I'll see you next week.